recording. Okay, hi Marla, how are you doing?
Nathan, I'm doing well, thank you. How are you?
I'm good. So yeah, hi everybody. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Nathan Blum. I'm one of the teachers at the Iyengar Yoga Institute of San Francisco. And I've been practicing Iyengar Yoga since about 2004. And I'm excited to be here with Marla Apt, who was actually my very first Iyengar Yoga teacher back in LA, almost those 20 years ago. And we're chatting because Marla's teaching a workshop at the Institute here in San Francisco in November 3rd, 4th, and 5th. And we want to introduce Marla to the community and talk a little bit about the workshop. Marla is a senior Iyengar yoga teacher and has 30 years of studying yoga with the Iyengars and 25 years of experience teaching Iyengar yoga. She's an internationally known yoga teacher and teaches workshops all over the world. She's written articles for many publications, including the Yoga Journal, Yoga International. And Marla was highlighted by the Yoga Journal magazine as one of 21 young yoga teachers helping to, quote, shape the future of yoga. So we're super excited and privileged to have you come to visit. Can you tell me a little bit about your workshop? It's called a somatic experience of the gunas and vayus. Can you explain me and to the community what are the gunas and how does the practice of asana, the yoga postures, impact our understanding or exploration of the gunas?
Yeah, sure. First of all, thank you I'm excited to be returning to the Iyengar Institute of San Francisco. And the gunas and vayus, especially the gunas, are kind of underlying principle in yoga philosophy, not just yoga philosophy. These concepts are mentioned in the Upanishads. So they're pretty ancient Vedic concepts that have to do with the nature of reality or nature itself. And one of the things that I personally appreciate about Iyengar Yoga is how practical it is. And so these concepts that, even though they're kind of grounded in nature and reality, are something still kind of theoretical. So the idea of being able to experience them in our body, I think the somatic experience is really one of the underlying principles of Guruji's B.K. Iyengar's approach. And so this idea of guna is a quality of nature. And so everything in nature is composed of these three gunas, three qualities. Tamoguna being the guna or the quality of inertia, stability, can also be express itself as dullness, as it's a kind of static state. So if there's a predominance of tamoguna in our minds and our consciousness, then we can't take in new knowledge and new information. And it's associated with darkness, so that's also connected to this idea of ignorance and lack of bringing in new information. And then there's Rajoguna and Tamoguna. Guruji used to say that, when we start yoga practice, our bodies are predominantly Tamoguna is predominating in the body. So he said we have to counter that, at least in the beginning in our yoga practice. We have to counter that dullness, that inertia in the body with the addition of Rajoguna. And Rajoguna, that second quality, is the quality of activity, vibrancy, and if it's out of balance, it's predominating, then it can lead to, it has to do with desires and aversion, so likes and dislikes, and could be, hyperactivity. And all of these gunas can express themselves in our physicality or in our mind. But that vibration, that movement of Rajoguna is something that we can use in our practice. Obviously, we move our bodies when we do yoga asanas, and that can help to counter tamoguna. the dullness that could set in from tamoguna. And then the third of the gunas is sattva guna. And sattva guna is usually likened to luminosity. It's connected to correct knowledge, or knowledge that leads us towards wisdom. And it's a balanced guna that's connected to joy and the light. You know, wisdom is oftentimes referred to as light. So it's like shining a light on knowledge, on the world around us, brings wisdom. So it is the guna of lightness and luminosity and clarity. And so obviously it has positive connotations. And so our yoga practice, and Patanjali talks about this in the Yoga Sutras, about this purifying of our consciousness, that through the yoga practice, we become more and more, the sattva guna becomes more predominant, and our mind and our consciousness also starts to become purified. And purification, when you hear that word purification, it's connected with sattva guna, and then we become more reflective, that we kind of reflect things as they really are. So some of the imagery that's used is the mind or the consciousness becomes like a mirror, the clear mirror that's reflecting the true nature of reality. So that's, you know, the yogic process. And I think we can see how, as I already mentioned, Guruji's approach in asana practice, he also said that our bodies might start with a predominance of tamoguna, dullness, but our minds can start with a predominance of rajoguna, too much movement and activity in the mind. So we're also trying to balance that inertia in the body, the activity in the mind, to kind of unite these things in our, not that mind and body are really separate entities completely, but I think that's personally something I find so powerful about asana practice, is that we can use this tool of our body to impact our qualities, our states, our state of being. And it's not just a physical state, but it's a physical, mental, emotional state. So that's guna. And then also the workshop is also referring to vayu, which is another concept that's also something that can't be seen. It's theoretical in a way, but it's energy. And it's energy. Vayu translates as wind or air, sometimes the element of air, but this is something different, that it's not an element, it's circulation of energy in the body. And there are 5 main vayus that energy circulates in different regions of the body and goes in different directions. And so when these vayus are in balance and they're circulating properly, there's general health. So again, this is something that we can experience physically, even though it's this idea, it's not something that can be measured, but we can get tastes of this in our asana practice. And so I thought, I'm hoping this is an opportunity for us to explore that we can get a taste, we can feel energetic changes, and that we can make some of these theoretical concepts that are mentioned in obscure texts, we can make them known to us, we can uncover them in a way that's maybe not so obscure and a little more tangible. And work with them in a skillful way that it can help us, because like I said, they're connected with our health. And so when we can get a sense of it's just a different paradigm for how we can understand how to work with ourselves.
Great, thanks. Yeah, I agree. One of the most magical things about Iyengar Yoga is the ability to explore, understand, and feel these philosophical concepts through the physical practice. And even when you don't know that's happening, that's happening. So putting a name to it is also can be a powerful addition to the experience. Is there a way to kind of make that? Do you have an example of making that connection a little bit more specific? Like, is there can you think of a posture or an asana that's connected with one of the gunas that you've experienced in your practice, or maybe a type of practice?
Well, I think that this idea of Rajoguna, something that's connected to movement vibration, that in a very simplistic way, we can all relate to times when there's starting our yoga practice, feeling dull, feeling physical dullness, just doing some movement, even if it's kind of a superficial movement, Surya Namaskar as movement, or something like kicking, throwing your leg up into handstand, or throwing your leg up into Urdhva Prasarita Ekapadasana, different poses where we split the legs apart, or even just throwing the arms up, right? It doesn't matter your ability. There can be different movements, and how that changes the qualities in your body, that you feel suddenly this feeling of lightness can start to set in. So if there's heaviness, dullness, that you can bring about that quality of lightness. And I think the thing is to start to mark those sensations, to start to, as you mentioned, to have it called out to us, so that we can start to study ourselves. So that way we can also notice in our daily life, not just when we're doing a practice on our mat, but in our daily life, that we are subject to these changing moods, we're subject to changing physical sensations, to the qualities in ourselves are changing at all times. And I think that when we can become aware of that, we can also find ways of counteracting if we find ourselves, needing some kind of change in our setting or situation. So
yeah, I like that. You can start to understand what kind of practice you need based on where you are energetically, or where you are in your gunas. Like the morning practice would be different than an evening practice, or just depending on anything that's going on in your life.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes. And when you start to work with more refined, or they say subtle concepts, like the vayus, the energies in the body, that they're circulating in different directions, that you can also then start to counteract. You can, if you feel like, oh, I need grounding, then you can do things that are going to connect you with that apana vayu, which is that flow of energy that's downward, that's connected to our lower body, and that has a grounding effect. Or if you feel like you need actually the opposite of that, that you need upliftment, that you need lightness, you can connect with, or you need a sense of developing, just building up energy within yourself, you can work with increasing, enhancing. It's not increasing, but you're enhancing, bringing about the awareness of prana vayu, which is prana being energy, and this vayu that we can experience in the chest. And we know in Iyengar Yoga how much we like to work with our chest and open our chest, but why? What is the impact of it?
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter. You don't always have to know why. It can be just, okay, that feels good. My shoulders feel good. My neck gets some relief when I open my chest. I feel a little bit more light emotionally. But also, if we can start to understand the energetic qualities that are happening, then we can start to see how that's interacting with the energy throughout our entire body.
Yeah, great. Can you tell us a little bit about your early days in Iyengar Yoga? We talked a little bit about, I called it the magic of Iyengar Yoga, but is there certain things that you remember, like kind of hooking you, or things that, what was that early experience like?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's basically what you described as the magic of Iyengar Yoga. I was interested in philosophy. That was how I came to Iyengar Yoga, was studying yoga philosophy and seeing that. And before encountering Iyengar Yoga, I was already taken with yoga philosophy, Buddhist philosophy, that not that they're the same, but having many similarities, there are meditation practices that can bring us to these philosophical insights. But it wasn't until I saw Guruji's approach that I saw a very clear way that we can experience this transformation through our body and through the physicality of this common experience of a body being embodied. And when you read and some of the Yoga Upanishads, for example, these texts that are tantric texts that sound, they're talking about transformation of energy, they're talking about transformation of consciousness. it sounds very obscure, but you can immediately experience this in a very simple, practical way in the yoga practice. And I think that's something that that because Iyengar really was able to express in a simple way. He had to do that. He had to figure out a way to express these ideas without the baggage of yogic language and Sanskrit at first when he started teaching in the West. So that was something that drew me in. I saw, oh, immediately there's a connection between this practice and the philosophy, that it's not. And the Iyengar approach, the Iyengar Yoga approach, is not that these asana pranayama practice is merely a stepping stone to the higher states of consciousness and to meditation practice, but that it is meditation practice. And I think that having done what are considered formal seated meditation practices, I found it to be very accessible, this practice of asana and pranayama, and something that's accessible to me, but also that I saw to people who had no experience of meditation and perhaps no awareness of the philosophical underpinnings. So this just a very practical means toward transformation. And you know, complicated, but not complicated. At least starting the progressive layers of it also attracted me.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure in my early days of Iyengar Yoga that was happening, but I didn't know it was happening, you know. Right. So that was part of what hooked me, but you know, subconsciously. Is there any, just to close us out here, is there anything else you want to say to our community about your workshop, or just any message in general?
Well, I'm looking forward to this. I think this is the first time I've taught this workshop on this theme. And so I'm excited for this opportunity for us to explore this together. I've spent the last few years, as many people have, teaching predominantly online. So these in-person experiences are precious, and they're also an opportunity for us to share our understanding and our experience. So it's more immediate in terms of our interactions with each other. So I'm looking forward to that, because this kind of work can be more subtle. So I look forward to being in person and getting immediate feedback and sharing from each other, and exploring this topic that's I think you know, hopefully it'll be something that's very approachable for all of us.
Great. Thank you so much for taking the time, and yeah, we look forward to having you in November 3rd, 4th, and 5th. Oh, I muted you. Sorry, by accident.
Okay. Thank you. I'm looking forward to being there, seeing everybody.
Yeah, likewise. All right, let me